Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Moving up with the Miclettes.
Moving on up.
And today we have a great video for you in which we hope to provide you with plenty of valuable and useful content. My name is Joseph.
I'm Sherri.
And today we are starting the first of a series of videos in which we're going to be covering sharing information with you about higher education. And this is going to include a variety of topics. These topics are going to include our personal experiences in high school, getting information, going into the decision-making process of that next step of attending college and university life. We're going to be sharing information with you about the cost and benefits of going straight to a four-year university or a junior college. Hopefully, we can provide you the best information for you in order to make a decision as a family or perhaps as a future high school graduate in which you will be able to make a more informed decision.
So in today's video, we're going to touch on basically what our experiences were trying to go to a community college or straight to a four-year college, and kind of how the 4 years in high school leading up to that led us in the direction that we chose. So do you want to start on your experience?
So I graduated from high school in 1997 from Lompoc High School. However, my first 3 years I spent at Antelope Valley High School, which at that point, it was in those 3 years where I was really thinking about attending a four-year university right after high school. In fact, I was already thinking that from the time I was in middle school. And many of my friends were pretty much going in the same direction, right? Everybody was thinking four-year university after high school, especially on the athletic tip. Everybody thought we were all going to go to a D1 or a D2 school to play some sort of sports. For, you know, a kid growing up playing sports all their life, that's what a lot of us thought. So between that and the messages that I was receiving from my family, college was the path. Although you think about going to college right after high school, what I've realized over the years is that although I had the grades and although I had taken the classes, my GPA was pretty high, above a 3.5, everything was pointing in the direction of me attending a four-year university right after high school. And that was the plan. However, a lot of the information was missing. When to take SATs, when to apply for universities, when to complete applications, even when to look for scholarships. So even though in the back of my mind, I had this goal of attending a four-year university, it really wasn't a practical option because a lot of the information wasn't there for me. And then once I left my mom's house between the summer of my junior year going into my senior year, then a lot more of the focus was lost and the information really didn't come to me. Because at the new school, which was Lompoc High School, I had a high school counselor that did not communicate that essential information to me. And it wasn't until after the application period had already come and gone when a different counselor came to me and said, "Hey, so what are your plans?" And I said, "Well, my plans are to go straight to a four-year university." And they said, "Really? Have you applied?" I said, "No." "Have you taken the SAT?" "Yes." "What's your GPA?" 3.6. And they said, "Well, you have everything that it takes, but you're missing one thing." And that was, you missed the application deadline. And that to me was a huge wake-up call. And it was immediately in that office talking with this counselor when I asked her, I said, "Well, what are my options?" And she said, "Well, you can go to a community college. And we actually have one here in Lompoc in which you can attend. And it's very simple. You just have to do these things, and it's a lot cheaper than going to a four-year university." And that was it. So the rest of my senior year, it was a clear path to make sure that I at least did that, because now that really was the only option since I missed the opportunities for going to a straight to a four-year university. On top of a number of other things that happened my senior year, that became a very clear path for me, and that's what I ended up doing. And so for me, yeah, a four-year university was a goal of mine, but the more practical, realistic option was to attend a junior college. And so it is at Allen Hancock College where I took 3 years to get my AA, or my associate's degree. And then from there, I transferred to San Jose State.
And my experience, I would say, is like completely the opposite from yours. It was never the option of going to a junior college, like you said. In that aspect, it was the same. It was to go to a 4-year college. You know, I was the first person to attend a college in my family, my immediate family. So that was always the goal. And I think even starting in 8th grade, there was a particular program called AVID that came to our middle school, seeing who they could potentially, you know, bring into the program, who would benefit the most. And so all throughout high school, it didn't matter which high school I went to, and I went to almost 4, but 3 different high schools. Each high school had AVID. And so when I moved, I specifically wanted to be a part of the program because I seen the benefits of it. So in AVID, it was things like they help you write college essays all the time. At the time, it was like, oh, why are we writing so many essays? But you know, they helped you write college essays. They kept you on your deadlines in regards to when you need to take the PSAT, when you need to take the SAT, when you need to take any other, you know, written exam that you had to take for college entrances. They also, you know, took you on college tours, and I meant like all the way across the country to Southern California, where you're spending just days with, you know, groups of classmates and attending the schools and actually seeing what it's like, not just walking around the campus, but like staying with people who lived in the dorms. So I appreciated that program so much. And I think honestly, like AVID is something that should be just given in every high school. I don't understand why it was only provided for certain students, but that was something that like kept us on track. When it came to filling out college applications, like they printed out the paper applications, made you fill it out. So when you went online, you knew exactly what to put in. You knew exactly how to you know, select that school, how to pay for it, everything. It was such a beneficial resource, and especially to, you know, young kids at that time, and most of us were minorities, just being exposed to it. So being exposed to it at a young age, it just kind of put in your mind all the time, like, you know, I could do this, or it's possible. And they also help search for scholarships. You know, I appreciate that aspect. And then that in turn helped me just prepare for going to a 4-year college, submitting my college applications, submitting my written essays, doing all of that. And I went directly to San Jose State. So, and I do even remember at that time when my parents were bringing me up to San Jose State, my mom was like, well, don't you want to stay and go to a junior college? And I was like, negative, I'm gone. All the way. Like I said, I went to 3 different high schools. So I made it a point to, as soon as we were registering me for school, asking, do you have AVID? I need to be a part of the program. I want to be a part of the program. And fortunately, like I said, they did. So, you know, Joseph was saying earlier, like, not every school has AVID. And I think that's sad, because there's so many people who could benefit from a program like that. And all the high school kids need to know, because there's so many kids in high school who do not have the knowledge. Even now, like, even though the knowledge is at our fingertips, we could seriously just log on and look. Some kids don't know, like, the first step, because applying for college is a very stressful time. And, you know, they don't realize there's so many steps you have to meet in order to apply. But I think that just helped in, you know, like I said before, exposing me to getting prepared for, you know, for the 4-year college, and just having the knowledge that I needed in order to succeed at that. And just to give a quick definition on the acronym of what AVID means, it means Advancement via Individual Determination. They do start recruiting at around 8th grade to help you with your transition from, you know, the years of 9th through 12th, to just get you ready for college. So look into that if that is something in your current school district. And then now we just want to kind of talk about what are some tips that we may have in regards to helping you get to the higher education, whether it's junior college or whether it's a 4-year university, if it's something that you are trying to accomplish.
I think one of the first steps should be having conversations early as a family, middle school, high school, freshman year of high school at the latest. So somewhere between 7th and 9th grade, start to have conversations with your family. Start looking at what realistic financial possibilities include. Start looking at researching the cost of different universities, right? You have private universities that are anywhere between $30,000 to $60,000, depending on that private university. You have Here in California, you have UCs and Cal State schools, and they're all ranging between 20 something $1,000 into the $30,000 range, and if not even more now. And so I think that looking into the cost of a 4-year university and comparing that to a junior college cost would be something wise to do.
Yeah, so start your research depending on where you want to live. You know, the colleges range, and it might not be a good fit for you in regards to if you like warm weather, you know, maybe moving somewhere to where it's always cold or always rainy. That might not be your cup of tea. So, you know, start your research, maybe, you know, talk to your parents, like you said, determine, you know, location, and just with that, stay on top of your deadlines. So like he said, you know, the main thing that happened to him was he missed that deadline of applying for a 4-year university. Because once you start your senior year, it's kind of like go. You know, starting from which dates?
So it starts in October. So October 1st. And there's been some modifications. October 1st to November 31st was the traditional window. But now it looks like that may have been extended to December 15th. And that can be different based on where you live in the country. That can be different based on what type of universities you're applying to, whether they're state schools, UCs, or privates. So you have to really be aware of what those dates are. And like Sherri said, that's not something that you should be looking into your senior year. That's something that you should be looking into your junior year, even maybe your sophomore year, and having those conversations with your counselors. One of the things that affected me was the fact that I didn't know this information. And yeah, I'll take ownership in the fact that I didn't seek the information either. However, I didn't know what information to look for. I didn't know what questions to ask. I didn't know where I needed to go. And at that time, there was no internet. Okay, so we're talking 1995, 96, going into 1997. So it's not like I could have just jumped online and found a website. I had to actually have these physical in-person conversations with counselors, and none of that was happening. So I didn't know what questions to ask. I didn't know which information I needed to seek. I didn't know what the deadlines were. I didn't know what requirements I needed to meet. And so those things need to happen really early, and we really encourage you to do that as quickly as you can, somewhere between your freshman year and sophomore year of high school at the latest.
So start early, you know, talk to your counselors, make sure that you've taken all the classes that are required for you. Even if you're not going to a 4-year university, just make sure you still have all of the classes you're supposed to take, just in case, you know, at the last minute, maybe you apply for the winter session and not necessarily the spring session and not necessarily the fall session. So just make sure you have all your classes, make sure you're talking to your counselors, make sure you're on task. And, you know, even with talking to your counselors, that's a good time to maybe think about, okay, well, do you know of any scholarships I could apply for? Google.
Something about scholarships that people don't actually know is the fact that you can be an underclassman and apply for scholarships. You can be a sophomore, you can be a junior and apply for scholarships. You don't have to wait till your senior year. That's one of the big misconceptions about going into higher education, is the fact that you have to wait until your senior year. And that's something that I share with my students all the time. Like, don't wait until your senior year, because it's your senior year when you have to do these things, which means you need that information ahead of time.
And even with that, you mentioned before that you actually went to college fairs. They have early admission college fairs that you can go to. Even at a sophomore, you can get accepted to you know, a 4-year university, potentially even on a scholarship, and be set. And then you just have to maintain your grades and, you know, maintain what you've been doing. Make sure you're taking your SATs, ACTs, whatever you need to take. But pay attention to the college fairs. Like, those could be gold.
I have students right now that are freshmen and sophomores, and they're currently involved in programs that are academic, in which they're already presenting themselves in front of universities. And, you know, these programs are putting them in a position where they can be exposed to individuals that are making decisions on applications and acceptance.
Avid.
You know, so networking, right? It's not just what you know, it's about who you know, especially if you have everything else taken care of, like your grades, your community service, your extracurricular involvement. All of that can be something that is going to help you and also having your networking.
But you definitely want to maybe talk to your parents in regards to the financial aspect, because sometimes your parents may say, well, we're not paying for your college.
Yep.
So how are you going to do it? So that's when the scholarships come into play. That's when the grants, that's when, trying to get into programs that, may potentially help you pay for school. So definitely talking to your parents early and seeing if that's something that's even in the cards for them, if they're even going to be able to assist you, or if they've been saving money for you for college. So just being aware of that. And then also, if you do potentially get a part-time job, start saving the money for it. Save the money for books or, gas or whatever the case may be.
From a financial perspective, being able to have an honest conversation is really hard, especially when you're talking about a teenager's goals for their future versus the financial realities that a family has.
Yeah.
And that's a tough conversation to have. And I've seen coworkers and friends of mine have to have these conversations. I've seen students have to have these conversations with their families. One thing that I really want to stress is don't let finances stop you from going to school if that's what you want. If you're trying to get a 4-year university degree, don't let finances stop you if that's your goal. However, understand that there are options. You're going to have to figure out how to be real creative about being able to pay for education.
Yeah. And with that, and if you do plan on taking out student loans, is potentially down the line a $400,000 bill that I'm going to have when I get out of school. Is that worth it?
Yeah.
Or can I, start working? Can I apply for all these scholarships? Can I apply for these grants? Yeah. Just anything you could do to help keep that burden down. Make that your last resort if possible. And it's not just in regards to financial, realities. You also need to take into consideration, am I mentally ready to be away from my family?
Yeah.
To be in a place where, things are going to be completely different. I'm going to have roommates and, whatever the case may be. But really, sit down and say, is it best for me to maybe still live at home and go to a junior college and work and, try to knock out those general education classes and, and then transfer? Or am I ready? Am I capable of going to a 4-year, getting to class on time, taking care of myself, mentally, physically, all of that.
Being independent. Being independent doesn't mean being free from your parents. That's part of it.
Yes.
But being independent means, can you live life on your own responsibly?
So these were our experiences in getting to, the 4-year college or the junior college that we both went to. And so the next video, we will focus a little bit more on what our experiences were going to that 4-year or to that 2-year junior college. So hopefully you took, something away from the tips that we provided, and you're able to sit down and kind of start writing out, what you want to accomplish. If you are, in high school, start writing those goals out now and, seeing where that takes you, and involve your parents and let them know what your plans are. If you don't have a plan, then it's going to be a little bit harder to see the goal that you have in mind. So drop a comment below whether you went to a 4-year or 2-year, or what the plans are for your future children, whether you think college is even a necessary step for them. Nowadays so many kids are able to make lots of money doing other things. It's just having that plan. So
share your experiences as well in the comments. If you had a specific experience that you want to share, please put that in the comments as well.
Yeah, make sure you like, subscribe, share, hit that notification bell, and keep moving up with the Miclettes.
We'll see you next time, y'all.